Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Jalen here. Another episode of Elevated Minds. Got my man's here, Daniel Fox, masculinity mentor. We've got another cool topic for you guys today, and this one is going to be called "Why You're Still Single."
All right, are we just going to jump in? Why you're still single?
we could.
My dudes here, right? You're still single because you fucking want to be single. Because that is a preferable place to be, other than whatever the hell is happening out there in the world with what women think they're doing. Like, you're actually single because it is a better life for you than dating or being in a relationship with who you're coming in contact with. And I think we'll talk about that, and we can put some pressure on that view. But first of all, I just want to acknowledge my dudes who are just like, fuck that, it's not worth it, right? Legit.
For me personally, I've been single for about a year and a half now. Still been, dating, but I've been single. I personally enjoy my single life because, I have freedom to just do what I want. I like to travel, I like to go do fun things. I enjoy it, So for me to not be single, I'm going to have to be with someone that really aligns with me, or really complements my life. Because I've got a lot of, great friends. I've got a great family. I have a great life. I live in a place that I love, I enjoy. So, I'm definitely single by choice. But first, just saying, I've got a list of things of why some women are single today.
This is about women, why women are single. It's legitimate too. And so that acknowledgement goes both ways though, because women, I think, are looking out at men and they're judging men as not adding to their life either.
Right.
So we can acknowledge the women especially. And there's this weird, we're like missing each other. We're boats passing in the night.
Right.
So, both ways, it cuts both ways. But hit me with your list of reasons why women are single. I want to hear this.
All right. I went, looked on a bunch of different articles, a lot of different forums, found a couple of things here. One of the main things that I see that a lot of men are saying that the reason why these women are single, one thing is complaining about past men and bringing that into the relationship or potential relationship. For instance, yeah, I know, right? So for instance, you'll meet a woman, things will be cool, things will be good, and then might be first date. They're already talking about, oh man, my ex, I hate when my ex did this, I hate when my ex did that, my ex-husband, my ex-boyfriend, this, and this. Just throwing it all out there, What a lot of men are saying is, obviously you're going to have to know about these things at some point. You're going to have to know about a woman's past, what she went through, these types of things. If you're going to be in a relationship, this is going to bring you guys closer. But on a first date, second date, you probably shouldn't be bringing up stuff about your ex-husband, your ex-boyfriend, what he did to you, how he cheated on you, and why men aren't shit because of this. You bring in this. Honestly, if you're talking about it so much already, it's probably still fresh, and you probably shouldn't even be dating in this specific time of your life. You might need to heal a little bit before. But that's one of the things that men were saying why women are single. A lot of them are still hurt. A lot of them are still stuck on an ex, stuck on some past relationship or past hurts, and they're bringing that right in, not even into the relationship, into the beginning.
Yeah. I have a lot of compassion for that there's so much going on in her emotional body, or her emotions. I don't want to say emotional body, it sounds a little kooky, but there's so much going on inside her, in her brain, in her feelings, and her emotions, that it really, she can't stop it.
Right.
It's compelled, she's got a compulsion to externalize this pain. And of course, if you're experiencing so much pain that you can't stop it from coming out on a first date with a new person, or even the first couple dates, that's a really big indicator that there's some emotional work to go sit with those feelings, to go try to take responsibility, to bring forgiveness.
Right.
That's the way. Otherwise, people are going to recreate that same situation. She's going to show up and recreate that same pain.
Absolutely.
process. Once you move it, it just stays in the field. It stays in the relationship. Relationship to relationship. You wonder why women are like, oh yeah, I always date this kind of guy, or it always ends this way, or he's always like, all men do X. The reason that all men do X is because you haven't resolved the pain and you keep attracting men that do X. Like, all men don't help out around the house and just play video games. Well, what is in your vibration? What is in unhealed subconscious that needs a man that doesn't help out around the house and always goes and plays video games instead of that? Like,
right.
You are a match for that man. So why are you a match for him? What are you getting from that? Do you get to be a victim? Do you get to be somebody who just gets to keep complaining about men that they don't show up, that they don't, they don't meet you?
Right.
Because it is meeting you to, I'm gonna say this in a different way. Men are meeting you. That you are a match. And if you think that you aren't, there's something that's invisible. There's something that's just out of your purview that you need to look at to say, how am I a match? It's not that they aren't a match. It's how am I a match? What am I not seeing?
Exactly. And I think that's where a lot of women have to take some accountability and say, okay, if I keep attracting this type of man, or I keep attracting this type of her, what am I doing to attract this type of man? What is inside of me that is aligning me with this? Just like you said. And I think if women, it could go for men too, but women, I feel like if they start to ask themselves these questions and maybe took that time to maybe take 6 months off, or a year, or whatever, however long it's going to take for you to redefine yourself, heal, work on your energy, your vibration, be intentional, figure out what it is, the type of things that you do need from a man, figure out what types of things you do want. Don't focus on what you don't want, focus on what you do want. And because I feel like that's a lot of things. I don't want a man that does this. I don't want a man that does this. And I don't like a man that does it. That's great that you know what you don't want. The things they say in like the law of attraction is, if you focus on the things that you don't want, that's actually not the way to go about it. You're actually going to bring those things to you. You're actually going to attract those things to you. So it's focusing on the things that you do want in a man. Focus on the type of relationship that you do want to have. Focus on green flags that you look for. You need to watch out for red flags, but look for green flags of these are the types of things that I do want in a person, and then move forward from that.
I think the thing that absolutely does apply for both men and women is, if you have a complaint about who's showing up as available, that's always a reflection of something about where you are. It's not necessarily like a 1-for-1. So if you attract lazy men, as a woman, if you attract lazy men, that doesn't mean you are lazy too.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you're, but it might mean that you get something else out of dating lazy men. And perhaps it's that you get to look at yourself and be like, I'm not lazy. You have now evidence as a mirror to bolster your ego and be like, I'm actually really successful. And or you get to be right about how all men are, which is, I've got a story that all men are lazy. See this guy and this guy and this guy, and you get to point to them, and you don't realize that you're actually a match for the ego validation that story brings you. So you keep bringing it in. You keep bringing it to yourself so you can be right, because being right feels real good. It's toxic as hell, but it feels really good in the moment.
I feel like if a lot of women would take that advice right there, and really see that every single thing that you are experiencing in life is some sort of reflection of what's inside, I believe people will start moving differently. They'll start thinking differently, and dating differently, being more intentional with their lives. Because we can blame, we can point fingers and be the victim all day, but at the end of the day, if you still go out there and do the same thing, you're going to keep getting what you always got.
Dating is great. It's a great experiment because you get so many mirrors.
Yes.
Into your own life if you choose to see the experiences as mirrors.
Yes.
And every date that you go on it's not that whoever shows up on the date means so much about you, but if you pull them close, if you feel, especially if you feel some heat, some chemistry, there's usually that chemistry is pointing to some stuff in you, and it might not always be bad, you know. But there's this word, trauma bond. Like, are you trauma bonding? I said, I don't know what that means, but it sounds juicy. It sounds like I should pay attention.
Yeah. Example of trauma bonding would be like, you know, you've gone through some type of trauma, and then you guys are connecting through talking about some type of trauma that you've both been through. So a lot of people, you know, that's how a lot of people connect.
Almost like I heard the term false intimacy through gossip or something, right? So you might gossip over the same person, and that's like the substance.
It's like
it's super low vibe stuff, right? It's a kind of low vibe, but again, like, so much of this feels good in the moment,
right?
And you just have to discern what's ice cream and what's like a balanced meal, like what's nutrient and what is giving you a blood sugar spike, what is healing and helping you grow and connect, and what is like feeding the lower parts of you that want to be right and be seen as cool, like what's feeding the ego and what's feeding the soul, because all of these behaviors, all these interactions have different nutrient densities.
Yes.
You know,
yeah.
Some are just and crap, and then some are like actual, like, all right, this is a eat your veggies moment.
Exactly. You know, and it's real interesting because, like you said, dating is such an interesting experience. And one thing I've realized with my dating experiences over the years is the better I start, you know, the more I start working on myself, the better that I became, the better type of women I started to attract. And they might have been the right ones for me in this season of where I was at. I'd realized however I was vibrating, that was the type of woman that I would attract. And it was so interesting to see how my growth, because before I moved here to California, I've been here in California almost 5 years. And I don't really feel that my growth journey really started until I moved here. And when I did, I started to date all different types of women that, you know, I've never experienced before. But every single time, I didn't look at any of them as a failed attempt or anything like that. I looked at every single one of them as a learning experience. Something I've learned about myself, something I've learned more about women, something I learned when I stepped in this situation. Maybe I should work on that. And then I'd go and work on it and then start dating again. And then I'd attract an even better woman. And, you know, that was better for me. But, you know, it just was interesting to see how things just started to change over time. And I feel that everyone, including women and men, no matter what is going on, if you are going out and dating, you should be learning from every experience. You shouldn't be, oh, this guy was shit, or oh, this girl is just not it, blah, 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 and she's this and she's that. And, you know, forget that. And it's like, you know, we might have fallouts and stuff like that. It might not always end in a great way, but as long as you can learn something. I try to take something from every single experience I have, good or bad. And I feel that a lot of women should start to do this. When you're dating certain men, try to learn something from what happened, even if it was a bad experience. What can you do differently? Or how did this end up in this situation? Or what was going on that I didn't see this coming? You know, different questions like that, different dialogues you can ask yourself to, you know, become better, have some growth, and kind of see a different direction or a different approach that you can take. You
bring up a really interesting point that I've experienced too. So I want to speak to men who are on a path of growth with our experience here, which is, this is something funny that's happened to me, which is that I'll have a standard for like, let's say I think I can pull, I mean, you use pickup terms. I think I can pull a 7, right? As I grow, I actually start to get better matches because I'm doing work on myself. And sometimes I will think, oh, like, well, this woman is like, I'll level up. Like, I'll start naturally being matched for 8s, but not necessarily more compatible 8s, just better across the board. And so that's kind of sometimes confusing. If you're used to dating 7s, you work on yourself, all of a sudden you start attracting 8s, but it doesn't necessarily mean that those 8s are more compatible in values. So she might be more beautiful by 10%.
Right.
And that'll trick the hell out of you, man. That sounded like Jordan Peterson.
That's true. Like I realized that, but that was something that I had to learn through experience. As I started to level up, I would attract, like you said, women that are just kind of better across the board. But it didn't really mean that we were compatible. A lot of times I'm like, man, she's so beautiful, but like we'd have nothing in common. Or this girl's, we've got so many values in place, got a great body, but I don't feel like there's chemistry, or, I don't feel like there's a sexual attraction. And so it's interesting, but it would be a lot more. I would be getting more choosing signals in person, while I'm out just at the mall or wherever. It's just interesting to see how things started to kind of flip as I started to get better. One of the next things I've got on the list, a lot of guys were saying reasons why a lot of women are still single is because they're not supportive.
The reason that women are still single is because they're not supportive. So these are complaints from men. These are
all complaints from men.
Yeah, not supportive. Let's break that. What's some other language we could use for that?
Let's see. Let's look at it in this context. So I think what they were saying, because I was even reading some of what they were talking about, and they were saying like, say you have a goal or a dream or a passion or something that you're working towards every day, and you have a woman that's with you, but she might not show any type of interest or doesn't trying to give you that push. What I've seen a lot of men say is when their woman isn't supportive of what they're doing, it makes them feel as if she doesn't care, or it makes them feel as if she's just not interested in him, which is interesting. The women I've dealt with have been pretty supportive. But I mean, I can see how someone not being supportive of something that you do. For instance, I have a friend, a really good friend of mine, and he does music. And he was with one woman that was super supportive of what he did. Listened to his songs, gave him honest feedback. Might not have always been positive, but it was at least feedback. She would support him. Keep going, that type of thing. But then he would get with another woman, and he'd talk about, oh, this is my passion, this is my dream, blah blah blah, and they'd just be like, oh, that's cool, that's nice, and nothing. And it made him feel some type of way. So I think in that type of sense, men, if your woman isn't seeing your vision, maybe she doesn't see your vision, maybe that could be what it is, or maybe she doesn't align with it. It could be a lot of different things, but this is just one of the things that they said, a reason why some women are still single, because they don't know how to be supportive of a man's vision.
This is interesting, because there's a couple different directions we could go with it. One is that it's just a compatibility issue. Like, you're just dating somebody who doesn't like what you like, in this case, music. And that's fine. Like, maybe that's just kind of what dating is for. You're like, all right, well, I'm going to be spending like 30% of my free time doing music. And so if you don't like it, like maybe it's not a match, or maybe we don't have to be the same. And that's kind of the separate direction. I know I like this. This nourishes me. I'm so secure in it that I don't actually need support, and I'm not looking to be supported in here. And
right.
And maybe some men are at that place too, where they're just like, you don't have to like it. We are different. I like that we're different. I'm going to keep doing my thing. And then I think the third thing, if we're talking to men, which I like to talk to men because it's closer to the sphere of responsibility.
Yes.
Right? Stop expecting a woman to do anything for you. Supportive, mature, responsible. Like, as soon as you let go of her being anything, even character qualities, the more you'll be able to graciously lead when those things come up. If she's not supportive, first of all, don't expect her to be. Second of all, lead her to be.
I like that.
Like, this is an opportunity for you to lead into character and to lead into support. But these days, expecting women to have character qualities that make relationships work well, it's probably just let it go, right?
Yeah.
If you might luck out, but also the real charge is, are you going to be the leader that leads a woman to respect you, to support you, to be nurturing and nourishing? Because that's all on you. all on you.
I like that, because that's actually a really good approach and a view on it. Because, like me personally, I'm gonna do what I do. You know, I'm a very independent person. I've always been that way. But I know some men, maybe it could even be a wound that they need to attend to, or you know, so I don't know, if maybe it's just a need that they feel that, you know, they want their woman to support it. But I like what you said, because it can go either way. You can either say, oh, you know, we're not compatible. Maybe it's really important. Maybe, I guess it all depends on importance to a man. A man might want a woman that's just all about what he does. Like, or maybe he might need to find a woman that's, you know, super into what he likes. Like maybe if you're a video game streamer and you want your girl to be super interested in that, you might need to get a girl that's into gaming. You know, it could be something along those lines. But yeah, I thought that was I picked a lot of the interesting ones. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting choice.
One more thing on that, which is, it's pointing to something bigger, which is, I saw on someone's Hinge profile recently that she was like, what do you want in a man? And she's like, I want someone who's different from me. She articulated it so simply and so powerfully, and it just illuminated, like, I've been going through dating for years and off and on at different points. And I always just assumed that I wanted somebody similar to me. And that's not polarity. And that's actually, like, what we get to create when you date somebody that's pretty different from you is like, it's such a different experience, and it actually causes you to be up their ass about not matching you on certain things. Like because you're so different, you actually respect each other in like a different way. Like I've dated like an atheist, and that's not where I'm at all. But because we're not arguing over the finer points of spirituality and manifestation, that's something that we just like give each other a wide berth about.
Wow.
And it's really fascinating. Now, is that something that long term is going to line up? I don't know, because it's pretty important to me.
Right.
But the experience of like dating somebody who's different from you and then being able to respect that, it's actually pretty cool.
You know, that's a really great point, because I feel, and I read something the other day. They were saying opposites attract, and they were saying, just because your partner is not 1,000% into what you're into, that actually leaves worlds of possibilities, because your partner can put you on the things that you never even experienced. You can put your partner on the things that they've never experienced. They might not know that they like it because they've never done it before. You might not know that you like this thing because you never experienced it. And so, you know, I've dated women that are entirely polar opposites from me, but those are the women that I've learned the most from. I learned so much in those types of relationships. And I'll say it is definitely cool to have a couple of things that you guys can, you know, shared activities. Like if you both like to travel, or you both like to hike or something like that, you know, that's cool to have something shared. But it's a really cool dynamic to be able to have virtually nothing in common and to be able to experience new things together. Because one of my things that I love when I'm in a dating, or, you know, when I'm dating, or if I'm in a relationship, is being able to experience new things with the person. Because for me, that's how I create a bond with the person. That's how I really connect it, when we're experiencing new things together. So I think that's a really cool point that you said there. You know, support doesn't even have to mean that they like what you do. You know?
Now, it's funny as you're talking about it, I'm thinking like, okay, what are some practical things that you want to have line up? And I'm like, you got to eat kind of similarly.
Yes.
Right? So if she's a vegan and you're a carnivore, like that's it's going to make things more complicated.
It's a little rough.
Yeah. Or get different needs around sleep or housing or schedules. Like, it's funny that it's not ideals. It's really around the practical things that you want to make sure that you're matching with.
Absolutely. So I've got, let's see. Oh, now this one is going to be interesting. So one of the things I've seen men talk about was when women aren't in shape.
Okay, so you want to get canceled up for this one?
I know that. Yeah. I told you I picked the most crazy ones out of this list.
So my frame of looking at all of this stuff, whether it's fitness or values or whatever, like, if you are going to be in a polarized relationship, if you're going to be in a symbiotic relationship, then you use your leadership as a man to lead the kind of life that you want to live. And so if something, again, I keep saying this, if something in your awareness doesn't match what you want, then you lead change. And that might not be easy. Like, it's not going to be easy to sit down and say, like, babe, this isn't healthy. It's not very attractive to me. She's going to fucking flip out.
Yeah.
Because that's so out of bounds. So skill set number one that you get to learn is, how do you have hard conversations about someone's physical appearance with them when you're in an intimate relationship? It's not necessarily off the table or out of bounds, but it does take a hell of a lot of finesse. How do you create a relationship where you can be brutally honest with one another? Like, that skill set. And ultimately, it's up to you to learn how to create those relationships, to how to have those conversations, and then how to motivate somebody to get to the gym, or to motivate somebody to meet you at what you're creating. And maybe it won't always work. Maybe she's like, I don't actually value fitness. I don't care. And on top of all of the reactivity, there's just not a value match.
I used to listen to this guy named Coach Corey Wayne, and he was talking about when a man wants something from a woman or in a relationship, she just, she's not really into fitness, or she might have just started getting into fitness. It's all about the way that you go about it when you want to say something about it. So, for instance, he was saying, say she just gets home and she just got back from the gym. She's sweaty and all this kind of stuff. She's wearing her gym clothes. And then you might say something like, damn, babe, like, you turn me on so much when I see you come home from the gym. Like, oh, you look so good when you come home from the gym. I love seeing you in those gym clothes. I love seeing, your hair pulled back, and you just, it just does something to me. Saying something like that can actually, she's like, oh, really? And then, you're actually giving her a positive reinforcement on what she's doing. And I was like, wow, that's a cool way to look at it. That's actually a way of leading. You're saying, oh, this is what I love this, what you're doing, and I want to see you do more of this. I think that you look sexy when you go to the gym. I think that you look sexy when you're working on yourself. And that's, without saying it, you're actually saying it.
Yeah. Positive judgments are a key tool in the masculine communication toolbox. You bring constructive judgment to your woman that gives her a boundary to dance in, and it gives her encouragement to keep going.
I like that. I definitely like that, because I definitely have seen men do the opposite of that and try to, because like a lot of guys, they would go about this the wrong way. They might say, hey, I just think you're kind of fat, babe. You can't do that. You can in a certain way, like you said, it's gonna take some finesse, but you can't just come out and just be like, hey, you're really fat. This is not going to work. I actually seen somebody post something. The husband was literally said to his wife, if you don't hit the gym, I'm going to divorce you. And I'm just like, that's probably not the best way to go about it, because that kind of feels like an ultimatum type of thing, doesn't it?
Right. I mean, just like we have constructive judgments, there are destructive judgments. And these are judgments like you're talking about, which they just fundamentally are too difficult for somebody to move with. Anybody can say anything to anybody else about life. Like if somebody comes at me and says like, you're old, like, okay, fine. Well, that's maybe a destructive judgment if I were really attached to being like young, but it's not necessarily like, it doesn't insult me, it doesn't affect me. But there are some things that are too hard to deal with for the average person. So if you insult somebody's look, like, you just have to be able to accurately calculate if that's something they can handle or not. Because if it's not, like, that's actually doing more harm than good. And at that point, you cross over as a leader into a domineering or abusive person rather than a loving and supportive person.
Absolutely. So I got one more here. This one is interesting too. So one of the things that the guys said that they feel that one of the reasons why women are single says that a lot of them demand all of a man's time.
So men are saying that a woman is demanding all of my time, and he doesn't have room for it. So he's saying no thanks to their relationship.
Yeah, I've met women that are very independent and don't need a lot of time, but I also do realize that most of the time when women get to the point where they're like head over heels in love with you, they would love to spend mostly almost every waking moment with you. You know, it's something that kind of just comes with the territory when, you know, but so I feel, for me personally, I feel like it's going to be, because I feel like a woman that really wants your time I think that's a good sign. I think that's, you know, showing that she's this high interest. I think when a woman doesn't know how to respect the boundaries of your time, I think that's when it can become an issue. And I'll use this as an example. So say, you know, you're a guy that works 10 to 12 hours a day. You know, you might have a business, something like that. You have very limited amount of time. You might have, you know, time to spend with family, friends, but you do have this woman in your life as well. It might be, I'll say it's like a newer relationship. And the woman wants to see you 5 days a week. And, you know, you might say, hey, you know, I don't have 5 days a week to give you. Right now I can give you 3 days a week. And, you know, the woman might continuously, but, you know, push and try to see you more. 'Cause I think that's when it can kind of become an issue if a woman doesn't know how to respect the boundaries or understand. I think a lot of women they say they want a guy that's high value, or they want a really masculine man that's on his purpose and stuff like that. But I don't think a lot of women really understand that when a man is really on his purpose and he has like a lot on his table, he doesn't have a whole lot of time, but that time that he does spend with you, best believe he's going to give you that focus. You know, he's going to give you that time, because the time is precious, you know.
Yeah, it all comes back to this same principle, which is who is leading the relationship. And in the way that we're advocating for, or that I'm advocating for at least, is that the man is setting the container and he's creating boundaries for his woman. You know, and that is an act of service, and it's an act of love, and it's a gift. And I don't know if you've ever seen like somebody dance, but like it can look a little out of control. So in this way, it's like she's coming up against your boundaries. She wants to spend time with you. That's a good impulse. And you still hold the boundary lovingly, caringly, like, and you negotiate it. Like, her emotional information is like, I want to be with you. How good does that feel? It feels amazing when she wants to be with you. And you're a man who knows his worth. You're a man who's doing things in the world. You're a man who has his schedule. You're a man who has commitments. And so you could just to keep those loving boundaries for her in the face of that emotional information. Honestly, it's probably the biggest turn on for her when you say, I love what you're telling me, and it's still only 3 days a week, and I'm going to show up for you a month.
Absolutely. Corey Wayne, he said something. He said, you know, when a woman calls you, she knows you're at work, you're doing what you're supposed to do. You still talk to her, answer it. Hey, you know, hey, babe, I really appreciate it. I love hearing your voice right now. I got to get back to work right now. You know, I'm going to talk to you later, you know, love you or whatever. I'll talk to you later, you know, but you're still acknowledging her. You're still showing love. You're still showing that leadership at the same time, but you still got that boundary as well. And so that's still showing your strength.
Yeah. It's beautiful. So, all right, man. Another good talk.
Yeah. Great talk, man. Thank you again for being on. These are reasons why a lot of women are single. These are some reasons why men are single as well. We can probably do an inverse episode on this. The next time we could do men reason why men are single. I think that'll be a really good one too.
Yeah, I love that, man. Awesome.
All right, man.
Sure.
Stay elevated, y'all.
You're foda, né? You're falling in. 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 You're falling in.